You got a raise, 3%, maybe 3.5%. Your manager said the word exceptional at least once. You said thank you, because what else do you say? You did the math on the way home. $4,200 a year, $350 a month before taxes. Your rent went up more than that. Your groceries went up more than that. Your health insurance went up more than that. But you got a raise, and the person who barely shows up got the same one. The raise was never about your performance. The number was written down before you walked into the room. My name is Zara, and today we are going to explain exactly how compensation is actually determined in most organizations, the mechanism the meeting never covers, the math your manager never shows you, and the information asymmetry that the system depends on you never having. Picture someone, 6 years at the same organization, reliable, consistently strong reviews, 3% every year. They have done the multiplication. Over 6 years, their salary has grown approximately 19% from where it started. A former colleague who left twice in those 6 years, once after 2 years, once after 3, is now earning 60% more than their starting salary. Each departure produced a market rate offer. Each market rate offer produced a jump that no merit cycle inside a single organization ever matched. This person stayed. They were told that tenure was valued, that loyalty meant something, that the relationship they had built, the institutional knowledge they had accumulated, the trust they had earned, all of it was an investment that would pay out. It didn't pay out in salary. It paid out in the same 3% that the person who slept through the Q3 presentation also received. The question they are finally willing to ask out loud is the one they should have asked 3 years earlier. Is the number I receive every year a reflection of what I produce, or a reflection of what the organization calculates it can pay before I leave? Here is the diagnosis. It is the second one. It has always been the second one. Your raise is not a reward for your performance. It is the minimum the organization believes it can offer before you start looking elsewhere. There are 4 mechanisms that explain why most employees are consistently paid less than their market value, and why that gap widens. Every year they remain with the same organization. Each one is structural. None of them require individual malice. Mechanism number 1, the pre-decided budget pool. In most organizations, the total compensation budget for annual raises is determined months before any performance review takes place. Finance calculates total payroll, applies a percentage, typically between 2 and 4% across the company, and that figure becomes the pool from which every raise is drawn. The mechanism is reverse engineering. The budget sets the outcome. The performance review provides the documentation. Your manager is not evaluating your performance and then determining a raise. Your manager is allocating from a fixed pool and then writing a review that justifies the allocation. The performance conversation is the paperwork. The number was upstream of it. The performance review does not produce the raise. The budget produces the raise. The review produces the explanation. Mechanism number 2. The forced distribution mathematics. Most organizations apply a distribution requirement to performance ratings. A specified percentage of employees must fall into each rating category. The top rating is typically capped at 10% of the team. In a team of 8 people, 10% is less than 1 person. The math does not allow for a full exceeds rating in that context. The mechanism is ceiling construction through statistical constraint. Your rating is not only a reflection of your performance, it is a function of the size of your team and where you fall in a forced curve. The same performance on a larger team might produce a higher rating. The same performance on your current team meets expectations because someone has to occupy the middle of the distribution. Your rating is not purely an assessment of your work. It is your position on a curve that was drawn before your work was reviewed. Mechanism number 3, the loyalty tax. When someone is hired externally, they are offered market rate, the current, real-time value of their role in the competitive landscape. When someone stays internally and receives annual increases, those increases compound from a base that was set years ago at the market rate of a previous period. 3% annually does not keep pace with how market rates for most roles actually move. The mechanism is compounding undervaluation. Your starting salary was market rate in the year you were hired. Every year you remain, the external market moves at a rate that frequently exceeds your internal adjustment. The gap between your current salary and current market rate for your role widens annually, not because the organization is cutting your pay, but because the external market is moving faster than the internal merit cycle follows. The new hire in the desk next to you is earning more than you for the same work, not because they are more capable, because they were priced today. You were priced years ago plus 3% compounded. Loyalty to an organization costs money. The longer you stay without renegotiating, the more it costs. Mechanism number 4. The information asymmetry organizations know the market rate for every role they employ. Compensation benchmarking is a standard function of HR. The data exists internally. It is not shared with employees, not because it is irrelevant to them, but because sharing it would immediately make visible the gap between what employees are paid and what the external market would pay them for the same work. The mechanism is deliberate opacity. Compensation confidentiality is presented as a courtesy protecting people from awkward comparisons with colleagues. The actual function is protecting the organization from awkward comparisons with the market. The employee who does not know their market rate has no basis for a market rate negotiation. The employee who knows has every basis. Keeping that information inside the organization rather than in the hands of employees is not neutral. It is a negotiating position. Compensation confidentiality does not protect your privacy. It protects the organization's ability to pay you less than it knows you are worth. Here is what compounding looks like across a decade. Year 1, you are at market rate. Year 3, you are approximately 6% below market rate, assuming the market moved at 5% and your raises averaged 3. Year 6, the gap is closer to 15%. Year 10, the person hired today for your role earns between 20 and 30% more than you do. For the same work, with less institutional knowledge, starting from a baseline you have long since passed. The organization knows this. It is not a calculation they have failed to run. It is a calculation they run routinely and absorb as the normal cost of the compensation structure. Meanwhile, your purchasing power has declined in real terms every year that inflation outpaced your raise. You are not earning more than you were. You are earning the same nominal number with less actual value behind it. And the retention bonus they may eventually offer, the handcuff payment designed to keep you in place for another 2 years, is structured so that the cost of leaving before the term is up falls entirely on you. The longer you stay without renegotiating, the more expensive you are to yourself and the cheaper you are to them. Here is the lens that changes every future compensation conversation. Stop treating your annual raise as the primary mechanism for getting paid what you are worth. It is not designed for that function. It is designed to retain you at the minimum cost that prevents your departure. Those are different objectives, and they produce different numbers. The mechanism that produces market rate compensation is external information combined with demonstrated willingness to act on it. Organizations adjust compensation for market rate when the cost of not doing so becomes higher than the cost of doing so. That calculation requires 2 inputs: knowledge of the gap and credible evidence that the gap will produce action. The raise you receive inside the system is what the organization decided to pay. The raise you can negotiate outside the system is what the market has decided you are worth. 3 moves, each one executable in the next 60 days. Move number 1, establish your current market rate with documented evidence, not estimates. Research active job postings for your role, your experience level, and your geographic market, not salary aggregator ranges, which lag behind the market, but actual current postings with stated compensation. Identify 3 to 5 specific roles with specific numbers. This is your market rate documented in real time. It is the foundation of every compensation conversation that follows. Move number 2. Initiate an external process before you need the outcome. Apply for 2 or 3 external roles, not necessarily to take them, but to generate current offers that reflect your actual market value. A documented offer from a competitive employer is the single most effective compensation negotiation tool available. It converts the conversation from your assertion of value to the market's confirmation of it. The organization can dispute your assessment of your worth. It cannot easily dispute a competing organization's offer. Move number 3. Request a market rate review, not a merit review. In your next compensation conversation, reframe the request explicitly. I want to discuss whether my compensation is aligned with the current market rate for my role and experience level separate from the annual merit cycle. This framing shifts the conversation from the pre-decided budget pool to a different question entirely. one that HR and finance handle through a different mechanism with different constraints. Merit budgets are fixed, market adjustment budgets are not. Accessing the second requires knowing it exists and asking for it by name. You are not asking for a favor. You are asking to be paid what the market confirms you are worth. Those are not the same request, and only one of them has a predetermined answer. They told you that 3% was the best the organization could do. They told you that compensation was fair, that the process was objective, that your performance was recognized in the rating and the raise reflected that recognition. They told you that loyalty mattered, that staying meant something. What they did not tell you is that the number was written before you walked in, that the market rate for your role exists in a document on someone's desk, that the new hire next to you is earning what you would have been offered if you had arrived today instead of 6 years ago. None of that required a lie. It only requires that you not have the information. And the system was designed with considerable precision to ensure that you didn't. You were not underpaid because you weren't worth more. You were underpaid because you didn't know you were, and the system needed you not to know. Now, if you have received 3% or close to it more than once, for work that justified more than that, drop the number 3 in the comments. Just that number. I want to see how many people this channel is reaching who have been inside this system for years without the full picture of how it works. I'm Zara. Thank you for watching.